So this is an intermediate class. So you should know how to start your basket and how to create the simple or basic stitch. But I'll go ahead and go over that really quick because a beginner might be looking at this video. So I always like to leave a good sized tail, at least an inch or so. I just create a little loop, and then after I've cut the caps off my pine needles, I take about 5 or 6 pine needles to start with. And I also leave about a good 1-inch tail with the pine needles as well. Then I'm going to go ahead and start on my right side. You could start on your left side, whatever you are comfortable with. I'm just used to starting on the side of the basket. This doesn't have a definite side, but I think that because these are blue sparkles up here and purple down here, I'm just going to start right there. I'm going to call that my side of the basket. Now, I know I've mentioned this many times, but I usually make changes in the stitching in my basket wherever I've started the basket. So all your changes kind of go where you started the basket. Let me show you. So this basket, this was my right side. This is where I started. So anytime I started up a new pattern, I try to start along this area. And that's just the way I was taught. And I've been following that. So that's the way I'm teaching you. So this is the video of the stitch sampler. Say that quick 3 times. With the tail going to the left. So once you get your pine needles all snug in there and you've tied your needles to the thread, then go to the back of the basket and tie it there. And I usually do a couple snug ties because since this is the beginning, you really want it to be nice and snug. Now the reasoning between keeping this tail longer is you want to tape it down and you want to be able to go back there and tighten things up along the way. And the reasoning behind leaving this 1-inch tail or 1/2-inch tail, because as you're working, these needles tend to slip and you could end up losing some of your needles out here as opposed to here. You want to keep that together until you get a nice coil going, and then, well, once you get around to the second row, then you can trim it. So let me get some tape. And I taught a class just this last weekend at the Pacific Northwest Fiber and Arts Museum, and I did have a few people that had problems keeping their needles from sliding out. So you just want to leave enough room where if you notice that it's sliding, you can fix it. So make sure everything's nice and snug there. I usually start with 5 or 6 needles and I work up to a 1/4-inch coil. So I try to follow the thickness of the basket. Now this is just a leftover center. I just try to use up all my resin. So it's just a play one or give it away or whatever, but or use it for demos. So it's not really a 1/4 inch. This one is closer. So I generally try to follow how thick my centers are, and they're generally a 1/4 inch. So coiling to the left. Now you'll have to forgive me because I don't coil to the left very often, but so just go ahead and go down into your center and do a basic simple stitch. Now you got to remember as you're going along, you're going to need to add more pine needles because by the time you get all the way around, you want to have a 1/4 inch thick or whatever thickness that you plan on making your center. So we'll go ahead and keep adding needles And I'm not going to be very good at this because I don't coil to the left a lot. Unless I'm working on an odd project, then, you know, sometimes I have to coil upside down. That's not fun. When I was working on the red doll, I was coiling every which way. So again, take your shiny side of your needle and try to get it in the center of the needles. Now you see these are a little bit further down. I'm not going as far up because we are trying to stagger our needles. And this does get a bit difficult because you're trying to get them in the center of something that doesn't have a lot of thickness there. Okay, so then just keep going along. Again, you should be an intermediate coiler because that's what this video is for. And you should know how to get all the way around the basket, adding your pine needles, making sure not to lose your tail, and getting up to about 1/4 inch thick. Okay, I'll fix this one here. So I'll keep working my way around. I'm going to do the basic stitch and show you what stitch we'll do next. So here we are. We are supposed to be working on the V-stitch, but we are supposed to be working on this sampler. So I go over my videos. I create the videos one row at a time or one stitch at a time and add a little tidbits in there. But I was going back over my videos because I finished them all yesterday. And I realized I was doing the V-stitch wrong. Like, it was backwards. And which kind of makes sense because I'm not used to coiling with the tail to the left. And I had a really hard time. I did it, but I'm happy to be done with this video segment. So, at any rate, I noted that I had done the V-stitch wrong. I was putting the needle in under the thread the wrong way. And I was thinking, that just looks uncomfortable. Why would I even do that? But who knows? It's been a rough few weeks, so who knows why. But we are going to practice the V-stitch on this little guy instead. And it's a cute little rose. So V-stitch, this one's, it's going to spring still on me. My gosh. Okay, so the V-stitch. Here it is right here. I did it a few times to make sure I was going the right way. For some reason on the other video, I was coming in this way up and over, and it was just like, that doesn't look right. So I realized what I did wrong. So here we go. We did the basic stitch. Now we are going to create the V-stitch. I'm coming from the back to front, up and over. And I'm just going under that stitch in the basic stitch in the row below. Once. Long thread so I don't have to change. And then twice. Just go through the same area twice. And I try to find a little channel in here so I'm not nicking the needles and I'm not going through the thread at all. You see, and I'm kind of holding it with my forefinger, guiding it. So the purpose of using the V-stitch in this little sampler is I want to use a straight stitch of the V-stitch to do the tie stitch. So back to front, up and over. Go through that bottom stitch once. Twice. Right up next to each other. There you go. So I started very thin here, worked my way up. I've got about 1/4 of an inch of pine needles. Let me show you that 1 or 2 more times. Back. See, I always tape my little threads down. Back to front. Keep it on the right side. And I'm finding a channel going right there through the top. Pulling it towards the left. Trying not to tangle my long thread. Up and over, back to front again. Go through the same area. So if this is an intermediate class. So if you're used to going through the pine needles, you can do that. Just go through the same stitch. Same area. Oops, I was picking up the thread. I don't want to do that. I don't want to make any problems with my thread fraying. Once, back to front, up and over, twice. Pretty easy. You may already know how to do this. For me, it's just a good way to set up for the tie stitch. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Do one more. It's a pretty simple stitch. It's very pretty. It's a good way to get more coverage on your pine needles if your basket's getting too wide and you need to add a few stitches. Instead of doing the basic stitch, you could do the V-stitch, and then you have double threads to hook up to. So it increases your stitches by double. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to pull out slow so I don't. There we go. I'll continue all the way around, and then the next video will actually be this one, the hot pink on here. There's the V-stitch. We'll be hooking up to this straight stitch. So if you wanted to do a straight stitch all the way up your basket, you could just follow this line all the way. If you want to do a spiral stitch, you could just follow the leaning or diagonal leg, and it'll spiral up. And I'll show that on another video, but there's your V-stitch. Just go through the same area twice, and it gives you a nice V. Thanks for watching. Okay, so let me show you that again. We're working on the tie stitch with the tail to the left. Here's the front. We are coming in from the back. Trying to go as low as we can in that V. Coming out on the front. Right between the V, as low as you can, without picking up any stitches. You will be going through the pine needles. And we'll go up and over to the back. Then come in on the left side of that diagonal leg, through the coils, pull it snug. Trying to hold on to this tail. It's popping. Pull it snug, up and over. Then this is where you're going to make your little loop. And I hold it down with my middle finger. So you've come in on the right side of that stitch, then on the left side of the stitch, back to front. Then you are going to go through the center of the 2 coils or rows. Pull your thread almost through. This is where you're making the tie, so you cross over. You're going to cross over carefully. go to the back. Don't pick up pine needles or anything else, and go through the loop, holding your finger through the loop. So you got that loop going on. And this is where I like to tighten up the thread on the right before you pull it too tight. See, I usually like to grab this one, the tie, pull it snug. That gets it all together, and then pull it snug. It's still a little loose, but I'm going to leave that and show it to you again. I'll go back and try to tighten it up. I'm just having a really hard time coiling to the left, but hopefully I'll get used to it. Back to front, we're coming down in that V. I know it looks like we're on the wrong side of this straight stitch, but when you get to the front, it's opposite, right in the point. So see, I got right in the point, not picking up any thread. I am going through the needles, trying to hold this guy down. Then we're going up and over to the back again, coming in on the left side of that diagonal stitch, but you come right out on the left side of that straight leg of the V below. Pull it forward, up and over. So see, this is already pretty snug. This is where you hold your loop and then hold it down with your middle finger, whatever way feels comfortable to you. Then you come back between the two coils, coming to the front. On the right side of that stitch, we are going to pull over and make the tie. That's what it looks like in the back. Come over, make the tie. Go through the loop. Snug it up and make your tie. Okay, one more time. This one came out tighter than that one. I didn't do a very good job, but that's okay. I'm not adding needles because you guys all know how to add needles. So, okay, we're starting in the back. Now see, here's your leg that goes across. Now, if you have just a regular stitch below, you're not going to have this other diagonal leg because we're using the V-stitch beneath. Okay? And I did learn how to do the reverse tie, so I am going to try to do that in another video, or I am going to do that in another video. Okay, we're in the back. We are starting right down at that point of the V. I'm going to separate the stitches. Very lowest point of the V. We're going to come out on the front. I am going through the needles, but I'm trying not to pick up any threads in the front. So what we're doing is enclosing this straight leg. I find that this tie stitch works better when you have a straight. So if you set up with a straight stitch or use a straight leg or use a regular stitch and just go through the top, try it different ways and see what you like better. Okay, so we've back to front, up and over. Then we're coming in on the left side of that diagonal leg. But when you get to the front, you are magically enclosing that straight stitch. Front, up and over again. This is where you make your little loop. See that? Hold over your forefinger. Hold it down with your middle finger. At least that's how I do it. Then we are going to come between the coils. Let me open that up a little so you could see. We're coming between the coils. See? Down between the coils. Don't get your thread tangled. It's easier if you're working with one arm's length. It doesn't get as tangled, but I usually use two. So you're pulling it forward. You're still holding that loop because we got to go through it. Trying to get it in good light so you could see what I'm doing. Okay, now we're going to pull over and create the tie. Let's go back down through the middle, through the loop. There's the loop. You're going right through the middle between the two coils, through the loop. Pull it through gently. So here's where I like to snug it up with the tie part. I'm trying to get over that little piece, but I'll cut it off later. So snug it up, the right side of your little tie that you just made. Pull it down tight. One more time. If you've got it, you could stop watching, but I'll do it one more time, because I know some people this is really hard for. Come down at the lowest point in your V. Try to come out the front at the lowest point you can get without picking up any threads. Back to front. Now we're going up and over. Then we are going on the left side of the diagonal stitch. But you're coming out on the front, the bottom of those two coils. So we're working two coils this whole time. Now, if you want to start with a tie stitch, you could just start with a tie stitch on your initial row, but to me it's easier if you have a stitch to start on. So then up and over again, this is where you are making your little loop around your finger. Come with your thread, you're going to come back over. You're going to go between the two coils. Previous stitches came out at the bottom. So you're coming between these two coils. Can you see the hole there? Because this is where you're creating your tie. So you're creating the right leg, the left leg, and then the tie. Then you're going back down through the two coils, through the center. You're not picking up any threads or needles. And you're coming out. Sorry if I'm moving too much. And you're coming out to the back through your loop. Pull it gently. Pull it a little bit, but then I like to come back here. Snug it up. If you pull from the right side of your tie portion, it pulls it all snug. Okay, sometimes it just takes a little bit of trial and error. So obviously if you had a straight stitch here, for some reason it looks shorter, this one, probably because I'm coming up too high. I'm not getting as low as I can. It looks much better as I'm going right-handed, but I have more control of it. You can see there. Okay, I hope that helps. Next video, I'm going to show you another way to do this tie stitch. And I'm going to try it coiling to the left, which I am not as comfortable with, but I will try it and see how that turns out. So here is what it is looking like. Here is the pink tie over the top of the orange straight leg of the V-stitch. Practice, see how you like it. Try it with different stitches beneath, see which is easiest for you and what look you like the best. Thanks for watching. We'll move on to the next stitch now.